The perfume in the hallway felt like home. A lantern swaying just beyond my reach. I dressed my need in red roses and said that this was love for me.
When the Heart Still Reaches, Only You Satisfy. Devotional Series, Episode 6. The perfume in the hallway felt like home, a lantern swaying just beyond my reach. I dressed my need in red roses and said that this was love for me. We just came from something real. The chorus arrived and broke everything open. The confession of a heart finally seeing what it had been reaching toward all along. The open arms, the water for the thirst, the truth behind every light ever chased. For a moment, everything was clear. Everything was named. The hollow finally knew what it was shaped for. And then the song steps back into the dark. Not because the revelation was false, not because what the chorus gave us was temporary or insufficient, but because this is what the journey actually looks like. Not a single moment of clarity that instantly heals everything that came before it, but a long and honest road where the wounds do not mend overnight, where the heart does not learn to feel all at once, where the lies of hollow fulfillment still whisper even after we have tasted something true. This is the part of the Christian life that does not make it onto the highlight reel, the part where we know, genuinely, really know that God is the water for our thirst, and we still find ourselves reaching for the wrong wells. Not out of faithlessness, not out of stupidity, but because we are human and our hearts are slow to heal, and the wounds that hurt are so much more easily given to pleasure than to the long, patient work of restoration. Israel knew this. Again and again, rescued, delivered, met by God in the wilderness, and again, turning back toward the familiar comfort of what could never truly satisfy. Not because they forgot God entirely, but because the ache was loud, and the healing was slow, and the false lovers were close, and the wounds were deep. We are not so different. This is what verse 2 is. Not a regression, not a failure of the chorus to do its work. It is the honest continuation of a life still in process, a heart that has tasted truth and still carries the residue of years of reaching in the wrong directions. The memories do not disappear because the revelation arrived. The sensory world does not go quiet. The perfume still lingers. The lantern still sways. The roses still seem, for a moment, like they might be enough. And life, as it matures and changes, only adds to the inventory. Where verse 1 carried the raw, unnamed longing of a heart that had not yet learned all its own needs, verse 2 carries something heavier, memory, the echo of moments that almost were, the weight of experiences accumulated, of loves that glowed for a season and then faded, of needs dressed in beautiful things and called by names they never quite earned. The imagery shifts here, more sensory, more intimate, more specific. Perfume, a lantern, red roses. These are not abstract symbols. They are the textures of real moments, the kind that live in the body as much as the mind, the kind that ambush you years later in a hallway, a darkened room, a familiar street, the smell of something that once meant home, a light swaying just beyond what your hands could reach, pulling you forward into a dark you knew too well. These images will mean something different to every person who hears them. The lantern swaying just beyond reach, the dark room, the empty street, the light you followed, knowing even then you would not catch it, will land differently for each of us. But the feeling underneath is the same. The aloneness of it, the reaching, the specific grief of a moment that glowed just long enough to remind you of everything you were missing. In my own life, there are sensory memories I carry that belong to this verse entirely. The faint trace of a perfume that once meant something. The dim light leading toward a room I knew too well. The roses I offered to someone I knew, somewhere beneath the gesture, was not where my heart truly belonged. Offered anyway, because my heart was growing numb, and I needed to feel something, anything, even something I knew was not quite right. That is what this verse is about. Not dramatic failure, not crisis, just the quiet, accumulated weight of a heart that had been reaching for so long that it had started to go numb, covering its wounds with beautiful things, dressing its lack in red roses, and saying to all of it, this was love for me. Not a declaration of certainty, almost a resignation. This incomplete, insufficient, almost but not quite thing, this is what I could call love. This is what I had. And knowing somewhere deep that I needed more, I took what was offered and called it by the name I most needed to use. Because the alternative was sitting alone with the full weight of the hollow, and the hollow, by then, had grown very cold. This is the lie that numbing tells us, that settling is survival, that dressing the wound in something beautiful is the same as healing it, that saying this is love for me loudly enough and long enough will eventually make it true. It never does, but we say it anyway, because wounds that hurt are more easily given to pleasure than to healing, because the perfume is real, and the lantern is real, and the roses are real, and real things, even insufficient ones, are easier to hold on to than the long, slow work of letting God restore what the years of reaching have cost us. God knows this about us. He has always known it, and He does not condemn the roses, or the lanterns, or the perfume in the hallway. He sees the wound underneath them. He sees the heart that dressed itself in beautiful things because it did not yet know how to simply come to Him with the hollow showing. He is patient with the slow work of healing. He always has been. As we walk into verse 2 together, into the perfume and the lantern and the roses and all the specific textures of your own misdirected reaching, I want you to hold one thing. Knowing God does not make us immune to the lies. Tasting His fullness does not instantly silence every old hunger or heal every old wound. The heart is slow, the road is long, and God, who began the work of restoration in us, is faithful to complete it, not on our timeline, not in a single chorus, but in the patient, persistent, tender way that real healing actually works. Being confident of this, that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Philippians 1:6. He began it, He will finish it, even when we are still reaching for the lantern, even when we are still dressing our need in red roses and calling it love. He sees the wound, and He is already moving toward it.